Today, we've got Cara back on the show who's going to talk about how her business first tanked by 80% during the pandemic, but now is 5x what it was. And she's also going to give us a cool strategy on how to communicate with customers that no one else is using. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Serious Sellers Podcast by Helium 10. I am your host, Bradley Sutton, and this is the show that's a completely BS-free, unscripted, and unrehearsed, organic conversation about serious strategies for serious sellers of any level in the Amazon, Walmart, and e-commerce world. And we have got my sister from another mister again for the third time, I believe, on the show. Third time's a charm. Cara from across the pond. How's it going today?
Very well, thank you. Although rather wet and windy in the UK today.
It is ridiculously hot here. I live in Southern California, and we've had one of the most ridiculous heat waves we've ever had in a September. It's been, I don't know what it is in centigrade for all the people out there in centigrade, but in Fahrenheit, it's been over 100 where I live, like 3, 4, 5 days in a row. And this is September. I don't know what is going on here, but
we actually had the first time ever that in the UK we hit over 100 degrees or over 104 possibly in the UK, which has never happened in the history of weather reports. And that happened, I think, in July or August. And then we've actually had an absolutely stonking summer. It's been
stonking. We start off right off the bat with new words. Every time Cara comes on here, we learn new words here.
So we have had a stonking. Now, stonking means like really good, amazing, like, you know, the home run kind of thing. And it has been absolutely incredible. It's been too hot, to be honest, because the thing is what Americans forget, and Canadians, to be fair, and Australians, when we complain about the heat, it's because we don't have air conditioning. So our houses are built to keep the heat in, not to keep the heat out. So, like, for me, I'm in the loft. Is that the same in America? Like, loft, is that a word?
I mean, when I think of loft, that's like a apartment, but it's just one big open area is what we consider kind of like a loft.
So lofts in the UK is like basically a room that's in the roof of the house, but you have like the rest of the house as well. So it's not just
okay. We call that attic.
An attic. Okay, I suppose we call it an attic, but we call it more a loft, I think. So anyway, I'm in the attic, and basically my fan just sits blowing hot air around the attic. That's pretty much it. So that's pretty much the state of the UK. But now we've literally had 2 or 3 days where it has just been thunder, lightning. I mean, I literally ran outside my office for about 1 nanosecond to shut one of the doors and might as well have just had a shower.
All right. Well, we've got, we're not here to debate weather in UK versus California. We can go all day on that. But one thing that I heard, I saw you a few weeks ago in the $1 Billion Seller Summit, and it sounds like compared to what was happening with your sales in the pandemic, your sales lately have been stonking, I guess. So let's talk about that, because I remember the last time you were on the show, you were like, something crazy, like more than 70-80%, in some marketplaces, but you have since recovered. Now, was that, did you start doing things differently, or everything is the dip and the peak has been 100% just because of what's been going on with the pandemic?
No, I mean, to be fair, when I spoke to you in the pits of despair last time, it only really lasted about a month and a half. So, okay. I had to.
Well, hey guys, there you have it. If you want to boost your sales, come as a guest on the Serious Sellers Podcast, and boom, we'll revitalize that right away.
Everyone heard me on here, and then basically that was it, worldwide. No, I think what might have happened is that I think once it all kind of kicked off, I had to actually start doing things differently. So I don't know if I remember saying at the time, but I'd moved over to doing FBM because we were actually unable to, like, FBA was useless. And actually, that is one of the things I've kept up in the UK anyways. We still do FBM a lot more than we used to, and keep it there as an offer, which is something I would have probably been a little bit dismissive of in the past. But actually now I think it's always useful, particularly because we keep running out of stock, because the sales are so stonking. We keep running out of stock. So and Amazon can be so slow on taking product in that we then make sure we've got an FBM listing because we've got stock at the warehouse, but we don't necessarily have stock active in Amazon. And we're doing that actually at the moment. We've got a product going in to the UK at the moment, and we've already sold a couple on FBM today because it is going through slowly through the slow wheels of Amazon's system. But
and then your products, are they a little bit bigger, like the actual package, or they're just regular size?
Yeah, they're just regular size. There's nothing oversized about them. If anything, they're small.
Okay, so the reason for asking is, now that you have done a lot of FBM, how's the profit difference?
It's better. It's slightly better because obviously you're not paying the referral fee. So yes, we have to pay the shipping, but
the referral.
We don't have to pay the whole amount.
All the shipping and handling and sending it to the storage. Okay.
Exactly, and everything else. So, and that actually does reduce it very slightly. So it's certainly comparable, if not, I think, very slightly cheaper. Having said that, I still would say FBA, unfortunately, is still
of course. Yeah. Yeah, no, I found the same. Now for me, the breakdown is probably more than 90% FBA to FBM, and knock on wood, you hopefully you don't have many inventory issues. Actually, if you have an inventory issue, that's not necessarily your fault. That must mean your sales are stonking, right? And then that's kind of a good problem to have. But at the same time, there's always going to be people like that maybe don't even have Amazon Prime that sometimes will order the FBM listing if it's there. And so
we also always offer free shipping. So, we make it like appetizing. So it's less of a decision, if they want to go FBM, then it's still free. So,
other than being on the podcast, what were some things that, were going on that, helped increase your sales? What was it? Do you think just a factor of people getting out, more, or what was going on?
I think it's I do. Unfortunately, I think there's an element of it which is it's the result of having a very long end game. In terms of obviously my business has been going now for 12 years, but in the last sort of 2 or 3 years, I've done some seriously hardcore work on my websites. So I'm a big Shopify fan. I've got 4 websites around the world: UK, US, Canada, and Australia. And then I have I've had somebody working on SEO on my website, so making sure that we're like actually working hard off Amazon as well as on. I've also taken somebody on who's doing Facebook ads and actually doing very well, whereas I've had an awful lot of offers from millions of people who always say, "Oh, I'm going to turn your ROI 50 times over," and I'm like, "No, you're not." But because you really need somebody who understands the product, because with it being a baby product and a slightly challenging baby product sometimes in some ways, therefore it's not just as easy as selling a handbag, for example, or what have you. And I think also because I've always believed that there will always be a customer who wants to buy direct from the brand, and there's always going to be a customer who just wants it as quick as physically possible, and who also can't be bothered to fill out all their details. So I've always made it very easy for people to move from the website to Amazon, because I don't care where they buy it from. I just want them to buy it. And I think that's sometimes things some people get a little bit precious about is, oh, well, I want them to buy from my website. Well, are you thinking about you, or are you thinking about your customer? And so I'm always about what's best for the customer. One of the other things we've spent a lot of time on is building relationships with experts in the area. So, for example, we have a lot of baby sleep consultants that recommend the products, and that becomes then a sort of a self-fulfilling sales machine, because they're constantly recommending the products to their clients and talking about them because it's very integrated with what they're doing. And that's something that can apply, I think, to any product really, is that, you just need to look at where are the people who are talking about this subject. So if you've got a cycling brand, who are the people? And not necessarily, I think a lot of people get distracted by approaching the big, like Kim Kardashians of the world. Whereas actually, a mention from Kim Kardashian might be nice, but it's probably not going to do that much good in the long run. Whereas if you can build relationships with smaller influencers and people who actually genuinely love your product and can see why it's useful and helpful and love your brand and what you stand for, then I just think that also adds a huge lot of value. And we've spent a lot of time over the last couple of years. It's definitely been a a real focus working with sort of the micro and nano influencers, and also the sort of baby sleep consultants and baby experts, and pediatricians and all midwives, etc., etc. And it's just sort of building that credibility and building that buzz. It's about, basically, I'm sure there are lots of other products that could be seen to be being similar to mine out there, but mine's the one that's been out there talking loudest. You've got to kind of build a story around your business.
Okay. Now, I had somebody on here whose main marketplace also was Amazon UK, and something he did in like all of his listings and advertising was just make sure everybody, at least locally, understood he was a local owned business.
Yeah.
Is that anything that like do you care about that? Do you think your customers care about that? Do you advertise that anywhere, or do you keep it kind of neutral since you sell all over the world?
Right. So I think the thing is, at the end of the day, people buy from people. They also like stories. So if you're not prepared to be the face of your brand, that's fine. But you do need to find some kind of story, whether that's, what's the shoe company? Not Harry's, that's the razor. Is it Sam Shoes? Tom. I knew it was a short name. Tom Shoes, where they donate X amount, blah, blah, blah. So it isn't necessarily always a story about a person. It can be a story about a mission that the company has, wanting to reduce waste or wanting to, do good in the world. But I mean, I've chosen to go down the road of, it very much is a mum invented product. It's a product invented by a mother. And I'm very much the face of the brand. And I mean, we get people who literally message in on Instagram. They're like, oh, hi, Cara. I'm wondering if you can help me with like whether or not it's going to fit my stroller or not. And you're thinking sort of like, wow, and often they may well get me because if I'm on, then I'll answer the question. But I have a team of people who are sort of sitting there who are all mainly mums who, will be answering the questions on my behalf, so to speak. But it is very much something that we value, is the fact that pretty much nearly everyone on the team is a mum. I'm thinking pretty much, yeah. And I think actually everyone on the team directly is a mum. And we therefore understand parents and, how parents worry about things, how, we understand, we don't ever judge, we don't ever try and be clever, if you know what I mean. And we talk to people in a tone of voice that we think is appropriate. And normal, I do think sometimes, and this is the same in any business, not just Amazon businesses, but I do think sometimes people, when they get into a business environment, suddenly start talking like a Dalek, like they start talking like a robot, because they sort of, it's almost like they've
now there is something that I understood.
Dalek.
Probably 98% of our audience didn't.
Uh-huh.
All right. And you are cool if you're a part of the 2%, but a Dalek is from Doctor Who.
It certainly is.
And exterminate. I love it. All right. Finally, something that I actually knew that you that you said. All right. Continue before we go too off the rail.
The sad thing is I remember seeing the original Daleks because I'm a bit older.
No, I remember the original ones too. Yes.
Got the slightly more modern ones. They were less of
one of my pictures, I rotate these pictures that are above me. These little artistic things here, and one of them is I don't have it right now; it's not in the rotation. But one of them is a Doctor Who.
I want to see that next time, please. On my fourth interview, where we can go into even more detail.
There we go. Now, something you mentioned though, right there, you reference like your team and their mothers and things like that. What is the composition of your team now? Because you're a I guess we would call 7-figure seller, and how has your team grown, shrunk? Like what's happened since before the pandemic? You were kind of high, you went down low. Like, did you have to let people go? Have you hired more since sales are booming? How has the evolution of your team gone? Yeah,
so interesting. I was having this discussion today because we're actually recruiting a couple of extra people at the moment, and it has, rather than necessarily hugely expanding or hugely shrinking, what I'm doing now is actually outsourcing individual jobs rather than roles, if that makes sense. So what's happening is, for example, rather than having one person who does the marketing, right, who does newsletters and website and this and that and the other, blah, blah, blah. I have one person who does website copy. I have one person who's doing a newsletter. I have one person who's we're going to get someone in who specializes in TikTok. I've got one. Then I've still got a team of people who I've got a team of 3 at the moment, and it'll probably stay a team of 3. Who will basically be running the kind of day-to-day social media, which is us approaching people, dealing with people approaching us, the brand collaborations, which is where you work with other brands to kind of reach their audience and they reach yours, all those sorts of things. As I said, I've got someone doing SEO. I've got someone who does Facebook ads. I've got someone who's been doing landing pages, someone who does email marketing. And by doing it that way, it means actually it's a lot. And I've got someone who writes blog posts. I'm taking someone else who writes a different style of blog post on. But what it means is that it makes you a lot more flexible, because actually, and also very much more, I think you get more work done, because what happens is the people who are good at what they do what they're good at. Whereas if you try and have like a jack of all trades, master of none, then do you know that phrase?
Absolutely. I don't know. I don't think that's just a British thing. I think that's a universal one. There, yeah.
So I was just checking.
Yep.
And I think, that's the thing. I think that in the early days, I think you have to have jacks of all trades, because that's all you can afford. But I think as you start to get a bit bigger, you can actually afford to pay someone maybe a bit more, but to do a bit less, because you're less worried about how much output they're going to have. So I think, I've got one person who kind of does all my logistics and stock and shipping, et cetera, et cetera. I've got one person who's on customer service, and they do that 5 days a week, 5 hours a day. I have a VA in the Philippines who does a lot of our sort of admin and reports, and a lot of the sort of Excel spreadsheet crunching and things like that, and a lot of order fulfillment, etc. Mm-hmm. So it's, as I say, I think it's really a case of sort of picking and choosing more, and actually making sure that you've got maybe more people but doing less work. So overall, you're getting things done a little bit quicker.
What would you say are some of the bigger challenges you have now? Would it be, inventory management across your platforms, or rising PPC costs, or what's like, what keeps you up at night about your business?
Not a lot. And not a lot does. To be honest, PPC costs, we try and keep it at 10% take cost. So, if it as long as it stays around there, I'm pretty happy. We try not to move it much. So I've got some campaigns which are like doing 200% ACOS or something, but actually for me, they're good at like brand. They're part of building the brand, not necessarily purely about clicks to sell, if that makes sense. And they're not spending obscene amounts of money. And then we've got other keywords which are ridiculously cheap. So therefore that counteracts, the more expensive ones. So advertising PPC generally doesn't really worry me, because I have somebody who looks after that for me. And I just sit there, and every now and then I'll just look and check what the average is. And as long as the average is under 10% of my total cost of sales, then I'm pretty happy. Inventory, again, I mean, like this year's been pretty stressful, because we were literally selling like 5 times the amount that we've ever sold before in the UK. And we've also sold, I think, 158% more in Australia, and we're up about 128% in Canada. Now, we have gone down slightly in the US, because I've got quite a lot of very cheap, quite frankly, nasty Chinese copies, badly written, clearly. But the thing is, if they're so much cheaper, I can totally understand why people want to buy it, or try it at least. And so I think for me, inventory is just one of those things. I mean, I'm very lucky. I've been working with my manufacturer for 12 years. We have a great relationship. And I literally just kind of go, shit, we've run out of product. How quickly can we get some stuff? It's increased my costs in terms of having to fly products around, which I never like doing. But you know what? Like, excuse my French, but shit happens. So you just have to deal with it. And as long I'm always of the mindset, which is, as long as it's financially viable and I'm making a profit, I'll sell it. If I'm not making a profit, I won't. So it's simple as that. I'd rather be out of stock of something than sell it at a loss. And also I've put my prices up again this year as well. Like, quite recently, it's really worth looking at your pricing structure, because sometimes I think we get so paranoid about like, oh my God, like, I mean, I'm never the cheapest ever, but even at never being the cheapest, actually my costs have gone up, quite significantly. And so sometimes you have to actually look at the reality versus the dream. And like, yes, I'd love to keep my prices at exactly the same price they've been at for like the last 10 years, but actually my costs have gone up a lot. So I've just added on like a couple of pounds here and a couple of pounds there, and it hasn't really slowed down the sales. So I'm like, okay, good. And then that just gives you that little bit of flexibility to be able to, fly products in when customers want it like ASAP. And it's like, well, okay, but I'm flying them in, there's a cost associated with that, and it's not a cheap one. So, all of those things come into play. But I mean, as you say, what I've generally tried to do is I very rarely, I think maybe this year we did sell out completely of like one age range of product, which we've not done before. But like, actually it was only for about 4 or 5 weeks, but it hurt. Like the fact that I didn't have, normally if I've got one in that age range and one runs out, I've got the other one to fill the gap. And there was nothing. So that was a bit weird. But again, you can't really complain because it's too many sales, is just one of those things. And what else is there that's I think the biggest thing is I actually do want to redo like a couple of my listings, and I just don't know who to go to, who I would trust to actually do it properly, if you know what I mean. I think there are an awful lot of people out there who would do it and it would make it look like any other Amazon listing, but I don't like things to look like any other Amazon listing. So it's sort of, it's quite difficult sometimes, I think, to find somebody who's skilled in that way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you mentioned, advertising. What kind of ads are you doing? Like, do you, obviously, everybody does, sponsored product ads, but are you doing sponsored brand? Are you doing sponsored brand video? Are you doing sponsored display? Are you doing product targeting? All of the above?
So I think we've tried product targeting, and it was a little bit broad, I think. And I think we've maybe got one campaign that kind of worked. So we're still running that. I do quite a lot of sponsored brands. And I do quite a lot of videos because I find that those work really well in terms of sort of selling the concepts of the product and catching attention. So I generally do try and do those. I also upload videos like onto my listings as well, like, demo videos and all that sort of stuff on like how to use the product, etc. And so I've had a bit of a revisit on some of those, making sure that they're actually relevant to that product. And I'm a very big fan of sponsored brands. I think my agency would probably do less of sponsored brands, but I love them. And although they are probably a little bit more expensive, I love the fact that I can often dominate the page, because I'm doing the sponsored brands and we're doing like the sponsored keywords. We're doing like anything and everything we can, basically. So when someone hits looking for certain keywords, hopefully they get inundated.
It doesn't sound like you do too much, sponsor display or product targeting, but wouldn't you, this kind of is a Helium-10 strategy here, but
I don't think I do any sponsor display because I don't think I've got an account to do it. I think, don't you have to have a special account?
No, you nowadays, I mean, before, you used to, but nowadays, as long as you have brand registry, you're good to go. If you can do sponsored brand, you can do sponsored display.
Every day, I shall be looking into that.
All right, now, wouldn't you say that, obviously, if you're doing any kind of product targeting, ASIN targeting, whether it's regular sponsored products or whether it's sponsored display, that of course, you'd probably do, similar products like your competitors, maybe who are a little worse than you. But also, wouldn't you say another good target to do are some of the products that are bought together with yours? Because obviously, there's a history, right? Now, do you know? Like, I'm just looking on your storefront right now. It looks like your $89 canopy cover and tent is like one of your top sellers, right? Like, do you happen to know what are all the history of the frequently bought together, like in the last 30 days that Amazon has been showing for that? All right. Well, I just found that in 2 minutes, in 30 seconds here on Helium-10. So, like, for example, one of the top ones that is bought with your product is a white noise sound machine.
Oh yeah, actually, people love white noise sound machines.
Yeah, for babies. Another one is a inflatable bathtub froggy collection. Here is a Munchkin Any Angle weighted straw trainer cup. Pre-spoon goo utensils. What in the world? Oh, baby spoon set. Okay. Here's all of these are baby products like yours. Now, this to me is insightful, and this is why I always like using this thing. Is I can see what's on there right now. Like right now, if I go to your page, the frequently bought together actually is that spoon set, and then what is this? A privacy pod. But sometimes people, when they're doing their ASIN targeting, they only
actually well, that's my competitor, you see. So that privacy pod. So that's quite interesting. I'm not sure that says buy it with. I don't think anyone would buy both really, unless they were just trying which one they prefer.
Well, that's actually something that I recently reached out to Amazon because that's something newer where it says both frequently bought together sometimes and buy it with. There used to be something that said customer also bought, but that's gone.
And then you get more like what I'd call compatible products rather than competitive.
But Amazon told me it's the same as frequently bought together. I was like, well, really? So I got to do more digging into that. But I was like, what's up with this buy it with instead of frequently bought together? Like, I see both now. They're like, no, we use that interchangeably. Sorry for the confusion. Our bad. So people are buying these things, and so, hey, so here, I know you and I are going to go over some helium-10 things later, but there's your first helium-10 lesson today. You go into Black Box, and there's a tab, the fourth tab in there, which almost nobody uses, is called product targeting. And then you just enter in your ASIN, your competitor's ASIN, whatever, and then a whole bunch of products come out, but filter it out for there's a source there. So hit that filter and then do frequently bought together. And there's 23 different products that we have history of your product being bought with per what Amazon is showing. And they're some of them, like, I'm sure you're very familiar with, but there's others that that maybe you didn't know about.
Absolutely. Well, and also, to be honest, it is something. I mean, this is the other thing I would say to anyone listening who's early days or even later days like me. The thing is, you can't do everything. Do you know what I mean? It's like, don't feel. I whenever I learn something new, I'm always excited, not disappointed. I don't sit there going, oh my God, how could I have not known that? I'm like, brilliant. I've done really well without knowing it. So imagine if you add that into your arsenal, and then actually you're going to do even better.
Yeah, and it's. There's one side of the coin where it's like maybe you're not doing some things that maybe you wish you had more time for, whether it's sponsor display or whether it's using helium-10. But on the flip side, you could try and learn every new thing out there, but then you have this information overload and you have no idea what to do, and then you start missing out on things that way. So that you got to find the right balance.
Balance, exactly. And you've actually got to find the time as well to actually do stuff. It's all very well knowing about stuff.
Yeah.
I don't read business books. Okay. So I know everyone out there, like so many people read business books. I don't think I've maybe read like a few chapters of the odd book here and there. Because, I tend to pick stuff up from other people. So they'll say, oh, I read this book about like the 4-hour week or whatever it is and I'm like, okay, that's an interesting concept. Find out a bit about it. But I don't necessarily need to read the whole book. And so that's the same thing as well. I think just being curious and listening to things and keeping your eyes peeled. Like helium-10 Facebook group is, I'm quite often in there, and I quite often pop in and offer my 5 pennies worth of advice. And I think that's the thing, is just sort of picking stuff up and just being interested in what's going on. And then I think that helps you grow.
We were at the, again, at the $1 Billion Seller Summit. I remember we were eating lunch at a table and you were like, hey, I've got this really cool strategy that I've been using that has helped me. Are you willing to share that here, or do we keep that at the $1 Billion Seller Summit?
Do you mean my amazing piece of software that I found?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to share. It's not my business.
All right, let's do instead of a 30-second tip, let's just make that our episode ending tip, because I already forgot what it was. It was so amazing, but that's just my bad memory here. But it was actually pretty cool. I had never heard of anybody using it in this way that you're doing it. But what is that software? What's it supposed to be for? But then how did you end up using it? And so much that you almost broke it, because they're like, why is she using it this way?
Yeah, I've kind of nearly broken a few things. I think that's the thing with maybe having an inventor's brain, is that I tend to sort of just push things to my own limits, But yeah, this piece of software, I think, I don't know what it's really called, because I mean, it's Pipeline Pro, but I think it's like under Go Pipeline Pro. And basically it's fundamentally, it's a customer relationship management tool. So that basically means that, you can do your email marketing with it. You can do you can do funnels. You can create little websites. You can manage your social media channels. You can literally do, it's like a combination of like all the different things, like the MailChimps, the Klavios, the Zohos, et cetera. And it's been created by 2 guys who I have no affiliation with whatsoever. And I think that the story is, whether or not it's true or not, I don't know, but the story is that they run their own marketing agency, and then they've probably done what a lot of Amazon sellers, and hence why things like helium-10 are in existence, is they see problems coming up all the time and they want something to solve that problem. So I think they wanted something that the main issue you have with CRM systems is that you have to pay per user. And so it ends up getting quite expensive. And then also, on top of the paying by user, you also often have to pay by the number of contacts you have. So again, that can really increase the cost. So, I have a team of like 8 or 9 people. And so for me to be paying, say, $100 a month for 8 or 9 people using multiple pieces of software, it starts really adding up. So I was sitting there, and it was a May bank holiday. So I don't think you have bank holidays, do you? But you have public holidays. So it's kind of like a, July the 4th type thing. And we have 2 holidays in May, although this year it was particularly long because of the Queen's birthday. And I was sitting there, and I didn't have my daughter that weekend, and I was a bit bored, and I was scrolling through on Instagram, and I saw an ad for this piece of software, and I thought, oh, that sounds quite interesting, because I really like the idea of unlimited users and unlimited contacts, but I wonder what it can do. So as I said, it's really probably designed to be more like the sort of thing you can integrate it with Shopify, you can integrate it with WordPress, so you can basically push all your customers through it. And then you'd be able to set up email, like communications with them, and like funnels, and send newsletters, and, do all your, you can also do a chat box, a live chat, although I don't think it's very good at live, but it's certainly good at getting messages across. I also use it for things like faults and returns and things like that. So you can do forms, different forms. So we get, if a customer has a fault or they have a return, we send them a form, and they have to fill in all the information, which then creates a contact, which means we can manage them, rather than what was happening before is we were getting loads of emails. Right. And the problem with loads of emails coming into loads of different email inboxes is you can lose them really easily. And it's difficult to find them. So, if we have a customer and they come in and they've got a fault and they bought it on Amazon, we tag them fault, we tag them Amazon, we tag them the name of the product, and then we tag them the person who's going to be looking after them. And then once they've done their next bit, then we move them on to the next person. So you take one tag off and put another tag on. You basically move them through the process. So the same with like social media. So, for example, Facebook and Instagram are a freaking nightmare to manage if you've got lots of customers coming in that way. And we have probably the majority of our customers coming to us via social media, whether that is faults or orders or product requests or shipping requests, etc., etc. And the problem is there's no real way of like organizing them because, again, Facebook has got minimal tagging abilities and Instagram's got none. I mean, you've literally got like, I think, primary and general as your 2 streams. And there's no real way of finding people. How the hell do you find them after the event? How do you find when someone's done like a really amazing quote? How do you find that person? Well, we tag them amazing quote. So we can look through all the people who've done an amazing quote and we can find them. We can tag them like ask for a review and then ask them to go and put a review, whether that's on Amazon, on our website, Google reviews, whatever it might be. So this system has really helped because it means anybody can go in. You can create smart lists from tags. So anything that's tagged with fault, anything that's tagged with Instagram, we have influencers and we tag them as different numbers. So it's like a small influencer, medium, large, extra large, celebrity. So we can find all of them in easy one go. Which products have they got? So we know that they've got that product. So we need to tell them about that product next in maybe a couple of months' time. So it's got diary, you can do dates, you can do alarms and all that sort of stuff. So it's just really, I have to be honest and say, again, a bit like Helium 10, I'm probably not even scratching the surface of what it can do. But certainly the way I use it, I mean, the company were a bit like in shock because I'm like, well, can you do this and this and this and this and this? And they were just like, oh, it can do that, but no, it can't do that. Well, it can do it. We don't know if it can do that. And you can use it for SMS, for text messaging. You can call customers on it, which is great. So like, for example, I had to get hold of Australian Seller Central and there was actually a phone number, right? Because in Australia, they're still a few years behind. So I just rang using my Australian mobile number that I have on Pipeline and spoke to them and sorted it all out using it and it was, great line. I ended up doing it when I'm in the car, off my mobile because you can call from the app. I mean, it was just, brilliant. But, as a general rule, it just speeds everything up, and means that we can actually deliver really good customer service. And since we've been using it, actually, we've been getting a lot more comments from customers on oh my God, your customer service is amazing.
Interesting. So what's it called again?
It's called Pipeline Pro. So if you look for it, I think it's like Go Pipeline or something like that, but it's Pipeline Pro. It's like the website's app.pipelinepro.com. Oh, it's Go Pipeline Pro. .com. Actually, in terms of just managing customers and all of my, for example, all my customers on my websites contact us, and they basically have a form that basically come and get in touch and we'll reply, or we have a chat option, and then they get an automated reply. Everything's automated as well. So as soon as someone's messaged us, they get a message that says, "Hi there, we've got your message, but if you want to get hold of us, the quickest way is actually on Instagram or Facebook." So often then people come through and come into Facebook and Instagram, which is much faster for us anyway, because then once we've got them, we have them.
That's a great tip. Now, speaking of great tips, you'll be speaking at the Sell and Scale Summit. This is probably one of the last episodes before the actual live one. So what are you enlightening us on at the Sell and Scale Summit?
Well, my plan is to kind of tell a bit about my story, because I think it's always quite interesting I'm not your normal Amazon seller, as we know. I'm not normal in many ways, as you also know.
You said it, not me.
But now I'm going to mainly be talking about like how to brand build and how to grow celebrity fans, grow affiliate networks that really kind of make sales for you without you kind of really having to sell yourself.
Okay, I love it. So guys, if for whatever strange reason you have not gotten your ticket, first of all, VIP tickets are sold out right now for Sell and Scale, but you can still get in with the regular tickets. You want to come see Cara in person, learn some British slang and learn about her story. You go to h10.me/S3. You could use the code S3BS100 to save $100 off, guys. I tell the story a lot. My whole Amazon journey started when last second, a week before it happened, I was listening to a podcast and I heard about an Amazon conference. And I just on a whim went and changed the course of my life, forever. So it could happen to you too. So make sure to come, and Cara will be dancing in my Zumba fitness class at 7:30 a.m. on Tuesday morning. She's already committed to that. But anyways, there's plenty of other reasons to go other than Zumba. So Cara, thank you so much for joining us. If people want to reach out to you in the meantime, or take a look at your story a little bit, how can they find you on the interwebs out there?
Well, on the interwebs, there's Facebook. I've got a Facebook page which is called Make It, Brand It, Sell It. I don't actually do anything on it. I mainly post pictures of me like in Austin and things like that. But I'm also on Facebook. I'm the only me on Facebook. And if you're interested in the business brand name is Snooshade. And I've got different websites in different countries, but we're all on social media, etc. So come and say hello.
Awesome. All right, Cara, thank you so much. And I'll be seeing you in a week or so.